Even if your world falls down, get yourself up off the ground. And since you know the pain has its own path, just be strong because pain won't last forever.
Today, are you feeling a little alone? People's true colors are starting to show. Did you get dumped by that special someone? Or much worse off, did you lose a dear loved one? Hi, all my favorite RPers out there in RP land, otherwise known as the YouTube channel land. For the channel, for those of us with retinitis pigmentosa, called Get Yourself Up. I am your host, David. I am your host, although not with the most. I used to teach, then I moved to the beach. I'm living the dream, if you know what I mean, regardless of dealing with defective genes. There have been times when sadness I've felt, but I just keep playing the hands I've been dealt. Life doesn't suck. You'll eventually see. Not with MS, not with RP. And again, I only mention MS because sometimes that creeps into some of my episodes because I have MS. Welcome to episode 4 of season 1. The channel's called Get Yourself Up. Episode 4 is called The Pain of RP. And yes, as much fun as RP is to have, as you all know who have it that are watching this channel, it's a blast. I am being sarcastic. It's a total pain in the butt. It's a pain in the neck. It's a pain in the shoulders when you fall. It's a pain when you break your ankle, as I've done multiple times. It's a pain when you just get skinned up on the sidewalk. It's a royal pain, so to speak. So, this episode, The Pain of Retinitis Pigmentosa, focuses on that, but remember, I base everything around 5 different domains: cognitive, emotional, social, physical, and moral. And each one of those, on some level, has its own kind of pain. Cognitive is using your brain, thinking. That's the one that's a little iffy. If you really put your brain to work, you probably can come up with some way to find it being painful for you to have retinitis pigmentosa. I personally have not yet wrapped myself around that one very well yet. Second domain, however, emotional. Definitely you have emotional pain when you get diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa. That goes without saying. It's devastating. It's very depressing. Some people become suicidal. It's horrible, and that's one of those things that why people ask me to do this channel, and I hope I can help some people, but just to let you know, don't let it get you to that level. And if you feel that you are going that direction, please, please, please see a professional. There are counselors that can help you with all kinds of things, and dealing with a degenerative eye disease like retinitis pigmentosa is definitely one of them. So emotional pain is huge. I always say I'm a PhD, well, I don't always say that, but I am, but I'm not a medical doctor. Can't give you any medical advice, so to speak. Not a lawyer, I can't give you legal advice. I'm not a counselor, I can't even give you real counseling advice. I can just tell you my story as a guy. It's on disability due to retinitis pigmentosa. Multiple sclerosis is just added in for fun, I guess. As I kid about it, I won the medical lottery twice. But yes, emotional pain is a real kind of pain. Social pain, believe it or not. It can hurt when there is some social event going on that you would love to be a part of and nobody will invite you because you feel like you're a burden, or they see you secretly as a burden and they gradually start drifting away and no longer call you, or if you call them, they no longer answer on the first ring. They wait till you leave a voicemail because they want to hear what it's about. They might call you back and then say, no, sorry, I can't give you a ride this time, blah, blah, blah. I know how that goes. That's painful. And I guess to a certain extent, that's why I just started hosting a bunch of house parties a number of years ago, years before I lived down here in Naples, Florida. And so I got really good at hosting house parties. That being the case, I have my own private bartender who you will meet if you watch episode 5, which I can guarantee is going to be a crazy, maybe even pointless, but a crazy episode, because she brings the party to life. But we're talking about the pain of RP right now. And yeah, it is painful to not be invited to do things that at one time in your life you probably would have been. Phone stops ringing, people stop inviting you, it's easy to forget you. I've been there, believe me. Physical pain, obviously, as I've already said, if you don't use the cane to avoid the pain, you're gonna feel it. I've broken multiple bones, concussions, shoulder injuries, physical therapy, all of that pain. Then once you get the medical bill, that's a whole different kind of pain, monetary pain. Very real. The interesting one is the 5th domain to me, which is the moral domain. And where I noticed that, morally speaking, I don't feel pain so much morally, but on Thanksgiving, for example, I participated in an event we have here in Naples, in Collier County, for disadvantaged homeless people that this year was really significant because Hurricane Irma decimated Naples. And so they have a thing called Thanksgiving in the Park, which I volunteered to be a part of, which I was very appreciative to be asked to volunteer to be a part of that. I don't know how much help I really was, but it was nice to be asked. Anyway, where I noticed the moral pain is it was morally nice for everybody to volunteer to serve a really top-notch, 5-star Thanksgiving dinner to people that had lost their houses and the whole neighborhoods had been completely decimated. But to see how sad those people looked as they lined up to get the food, that was a tearjerker for me. And I'd have to keep a smile and, cheer them up as best I could. But I was just trying to do the morally right thing to help somebody off who got hit by the hurricane worse than I did. I got hit, my house got hit, but not like this. And so when you saw what those poor people were going through, I can say I felt some moral pain on that level too. So again, the 5 domains: cognitive, emotional, social, physical, moral. Sometimes they just intertwine with each other. So episode 4 is the pain of retinitis pigmentosa. Factor that into those 5 different domains and see what you get out of this episode. Remember, I have an email address if you want to get in touch with me regarding the show specifically. It's getyourselfup1@hotmail.com. Getyourselfup1. Take that back. Getyourselfup1@gmail.com. I don't think the Hotmail address really exists. It's getyourselfup1@gmail.com. I do have a real email address and neither of those is it, so this is just stuff for the show. Anyway, remember my stupid rhyme I made up a while back that's now starting to spread around, I've noticed. Use the cane, avoid the pain of retinitis pigmentosa. Specifically the physical pain, but don't forget the emotional pain from the diagnosis, the social pain from being left out. Interestingly, I discovered some moral pain. Like I said, cognitive, I haven't quite wrapped myself around yet, but I bet there's somebody out there that can give me an idea of what I'm even thinking of. Use the cane, avoid the pain. It's not that you fall down, it's how you get yourself up. I hope you get something out of this episode. I hope you remember to use your cane and avoid the pain. And I will talk with you after the fact. Enjoy. And so I'm back in my living room, dressed like a complete idiot. Actually, as a referee, which if you're a sports fan like I am, a football fan, American football. I also like soccer too, for those of you around the world that don't follow American football. But everybody hates referees because they always make calls that we think hurts our team and causes them to lose. So sometimes I wear this as a Halloween costume. Make sure I always have my cane with me. And I play the role of the blind referee who can't see to make the right call. The visually impaired referee. Give you a heads up, I am intending to use a little bit of humor, off-color jokes on occasion here. I apologize ahead of time if I offend any of you. The way I look at it, when you have retinitis pigmentosa, like I do, you've got to have a sense of humor to make it from one day to the next. It's bad enough and sad enough for being robbed of our vision. Some of us have been robbed of our careers that we've worked years and years to achieve. Last thing I want to have taken from me is my sense of humor. And I am able to laugh at myself. So if you find anything I say offensive, I am sorry, but I'm really just poking fun at myself. Being that I'm a referee today, it is Super Bowl Sunday, by the way, when we're shooting this. It just seems apropos. I was listening to NPR once, a couple years ago, and there was a guy that had retinitis pigmentosa from Canada, and he had written a book or something, which I didn't buy, but it was an interesting interview. And the guy had the best sense of humor in that he was telling a story about how he went down to New Orleans for a vacation, and he had, like he was supposed to, his cane with him. And when I refer to using the cane with the pencil technique, that's where you hold it like this, if you can see that in the video. And when I'm in a crowded place, I'll do that so I'm not just smacking people with my cane all over the place. And a lot of people don't even notice it. So anyway, this Canadian guy with RP was in New Orleans, and some guy just grabbed him from behind to mug him. And the guy just said, "What you got?" And the Canadian guy with RP just showed him his cane and said, "Retinitis pigmentosa?" And then the mugger felt terrible for mugging a visually impaired guy. And so he was apologizing to him profusely. Sometimes your cane can come in handy for things like that. But the guy ended it by saying, "What, I'm so pitiful that I'm not even worthy of getting mugged in New Orleans like everybody else just because I have RP?" That's the kind of sense of humor you want to have. I'll tell you a couple jokes. Again, I can tell them. I feel I can, because I'm visually impaired, I'm legally blind, I have retinitis pigmentosa. It's like you can make fun of your family, but when other people do it, then it's not so cool. So I'm making fun of myself. That's how I see it. Anyway, did you hear the one about the blind guy, okay, the visually impaired guy, who fell down the well? He didn't see that well. Penalty, 5 yards. Bad joke, not told very well, mildly offensive. Penalty on this guy, replay first down. Alright, so that joke failed. Try another one. So a guy with retinitis pigmentosa walks into a bar. and into a table, and into a chair, and into the server. You guys get it. Penalty, 15-yard flagrant foul. Bad joke again, but it's my sense of humor. Okay, the last joke I'm going to tell you at this point in time is one that's for us, making fun of everybody else. So there was this visually impaired guy at the bus stop. It was pouring rain. He was waiting for his bus to go to wherever he was going, a mile or two away. When along comes a family to the bus stop, 2 parents, mom and dad, and 9 little kids. They also wanted to take the bus to the same location. So the visually impaired guy was a gentleman. When they were told there were only 10 seats available on the bus, he told the father of the 9 kids, "How about your wife take the 9 children on the bus for those 10 seats, and you and I can simply walk another mile or 2 to get to our destination?" Begrudgingly, the father said, "Yeah, I guess we could do that." Now, those of you that have been using your canes the way you're supposed to, you know there are different techniques. I told you about the pencil, I call it, when I'm in a crowded area. And then there's the sweeping technique, where you sweep it over to the right when you step your left foot forward, and you sweep it to your left when you put your right foot forward. Goes like that. Sounds like that on a hardwood floor. And then there's a tapping technique. Same thing. Sounds like that. So as the visually impaired guy and the father of 9 were walking their 1 or 2 miles to their destination, the father started getting really irritated by the sound of the cane tapping. And he said, "I really wish you had put rubber on the end of your cane so that we would not have to hear all of that racket this entire walk, in the rain nonetheless." To which the visually impaired guy said, "You say I should put rubber on here? You know what? Had you put a rubber on, you and I would be riding the bus right now." Touchdown! Take one for the RP team. This particular episode is focusing on pain, physical pain. Of course, we know there is emotional pain, depression, whatever that goes along with RP. But your cane is to keep you from hurting yourself. I'll show you a picture or two of me when I didn't use my cane at a place that I have frequented hundreds of times, if not thousands. And I tripped on this thing that is designed for the fire department. It's right in the parking lot. And it was elevated about this much, maybe 3/4 of an inch, above the surface of the parking lot. And of course I caught it with my right foot and fell down completely, smashing my shoulder into the pavement along with my head. Now, I was actually fortunate. Yes, I had to go through 12 weeks of physical therapy. I'll discuss a little bit more of that pain in a different episode. But this was right in front of Whole Foods, or Whole Paycheck Foods as they call it, because it's expensive. They have those posts right there, which you see in big cities now, or just around the world, I guess, because of the terrorists that think it's a good idea to drive a car or a truck into a big crowd of people and into buildings to kill as many as they can. So they've started putting those posts up. Anyway, the point being, I missed that thing by, I would say, 6 inches. Otherwise, I would have knocked my whole, not just smashed up my head, I would have probably knocked my eyes out. At least one of them. So, use the cane. I wish I had used it that day. It would have saved me a lot of money and a lot of pain. I ended up having to walk 1.5 miles back to the house, and my neighbor across the street, so sweet, she saw how beat up I was and drove me immediately to the emergency room, and they did all the x-rays and everything. And again, I'll tell that story at a different time. Point being, avoid the pain. Now, if you do get injured, or if I do, which does happen still, even with the cane sometimes, I at least like to have a little fun with it. And so here's a picture of what I dressed up as to go to a sports bar to watch a game the very next week that this happened. That's my idea of sense of humor. Okay. Some things that you think would be really painful aren't. Such as, I have to get injections for macular edema into my eyes, depending on what the retinal specialist sees at any given time. And that sounds so gross, to the point that it even grosses out my primary care physician. And I have to give her a hard time and say, you're a doctor, nothing's supposed to gross you out. But I've learned a lot of doctors get really grossed out by eyes. So I'm thankful for ophthalmologists and retinal specialists and the other eye doctors that actually do the surgeries, because not every doctor can do it, without getting sick. Anyway, so my point is, I have to get injections. You would think not only is that gross, but it would be very, very painful. It's not at all. So if you're ever told that you have to get injections, don't worry about it. They put eye drops in whichever eye is getting done. Doctor leaves the room for 5 minutes, comes back, gives a second eye drop. Then he takes out his needle and he leans over you. And in my case, he said, very first time, said, well, you ready? And I said, I'm as ready as I'll ever be. Cringing. And he said, I'm already finished. I didn't feel a single thing. So, my point being, don't panic if you have to get injections in your eyes. They know how to make it so it doesn't hurt. Plus, it makes for good stories to gross people out if you're in that sort of mood. Cataracts, same thing. I've had cataracts removed from both my eyes. When you have RP, you tend to get cataracts at a young age. It is perfectly normal for people to get cataracts as they get older, but retinitis pigmentosa causes them oftentimes to form at a young age. The surgery, there's nothing to it. Again, it seems like it's going to be gross, but they do the same thing. They put the numbing eye drops in, and you're in there for maybe 20 minutes and you can't feel a thing. Then they bandage you all up. That being said, so those are 2 surgeries. And yes, technically they are surgeries, but they are routine. I did have one incident though where I had an attack of acute angle closure glaucoma, it's called. Glaucoma is the pressure that builds up in the back of your eye, and just so happened to be 4th of July, which here in the United States is our Independence Day, and so they light off a lot of fireworks and things like that. That happened to be the same day that I had my attack of the acute angle closure glaucoma, although I didn't know what it was. I just knew it hurt like hell in the back of my left eye, which is my only good eye. Good being a relative term. And to the point I was screaming. I had to dial 911, the ambulance came, took me to the emergency room, and it took them 3 hours before they got to me because the ambulance driver told them it was not an emergency. It was an emergency. You can go blind from that quickly. Anyway, again, that's another story I can talk about at a different time. But that is one time that the cane didn't cause or help me avoid that pain, and there was incredible pain, but the on-call ophthalmologist had to be called into the emergency room, perform the surgery in the middle of the night, and I was released the following day by noon. So that was painful. Since you have suffered long enough through my stories for this particular episode, I will leave you with a silly little rhyme that I came up with. I've got a couple different versions of it, but again, I am taking it upon myself to hopefully inspire or motivate you with RP. Use your damn canes. You will avoid the pain that you've been suffering. And I see your posts on the message boards on Facebook about the humiliation when you bump into somebody and they get mad at you or whatever. If you have your cane, people don't get mad at you, usually. Although I will share a story with you in a future episode of where actually having my cane almost cost me to get beat to hell. That'll be a teaser for a future episode. Anyway, if you or your loved one with RP just doesn't want to accept the fact that they have a cane now, or don't even know they should have one, if you're falling down, you should have one. You can get one on Amazon for $49, a good graphite one that doesn't bend like the metal ones. And you want to get it the right length. I think mine's 54 inches, but I can't remember exactly. Here's the rhyme. Don't be afraid to use your cane. Use your cane and avoid some pain. Yeah, that's pretty cheesy. I'm going to say it again. Don't be afraid to use your cane. Use your cane and avoid some pain. Or the shortened version is, use your cane, avoid the pain. That goes for physical as well as emotional. Have a good one, you guys. See you next time. Get yourself up. Well, okay, I hope a few of you got something out of that episode regarding the pain of retinitis pigmentosa. Again, my name's David. If you have anything you want to share with me or that you'd like me to talk about in the future, don't forget the email address is getyourselfup1@gmail.com. Hopefully you found something out of at least a few of my 5 domains of happiness. David's 5 domains of happiness with retinitis pigmentosa. Cognitive, emotional, social, physical, and moral. It was about pain. If you go backwards, might have been a little moral pain. Physical pain, for sure, can be avoided by using the cane. Social pain, that's more heartbreak. Emotional pain goes similar to that. Cognitive, even after doing that, I haven't quite come to terms with that one yet, but I'm sure it's out there somewhere. Maybe some of you have an idea. Anyway, it's not that you fall down, it's how you get yourself up. See you next time. Episode 5, I'll give you a heads up, will most likely be crazy and silly and that's the way it's intended to be, because this channel is not ever intended to take itself too seriously. Some episodes might be sad, some might be a little painful. Episode 5 isn't going to be either of those, I can promise you that. See you next time. Get yourself up. I'm out of here.
Even if your world falls down, get yourself up off the ground. And since you know the pain has its own path, just be strong, because pain won't last forever.
Today, are you feeling a little alone? People's true colors are starting to show. Did you get dumped by that special someone? Or much worse off, did you lose a dear loved one? So are you feeling really down today? Cause you just learned your best friend passed away. Yet all the bullies are having a parade, and you feel like no one will ever come to your aid. Infuriated, incapacitated, so deflated, frustrated, and often just hated. Unappreciated and unmotivated, so alienated, just plain devastated. Heart's been confiscated, feel so separated. Life's too complicated, rather just get sedated. It's not that you fall down, it's how you get yourself up. Get yourself up, 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 get yourself up. So I don't like the way that I look today. Consider myself lucky, worse could be on the way. So I think about those who are really in need, and I try to help them out as I rethink my greed. Intrinsic motivation is all that it takes, so I don't wait for others to fix my mistakes. Don't wait for an invitation, it won't arrive. It's only up to me to make myself feel alive. Infuriated, incapacitated, so deflated, frustrated, and often just hated. Unappreciated and unmotivated, so alienated, just plain devastated. Heart's been confiscated, feel so separated. Life's too complicated, rather just get sedated. It's not that you fall down, it's how you get yourself up. Get yourself up, 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 get yourself up. You got some really sad news today, dealing with a really heavy heart. You're keeping it all inside yourself, and it's starting to tear you apart. If your friends don't help you with serious stuff, they're probably not real friends at all. Look in the mirror and then ask yourself, are you really heeding my call? So be the good friend you know you should be. There are people worse off than you'll ever be. They need your help, so lend them a hand, then someone will help you and you'll understand. So elevate, invigorate, whatever their problem, help dominate. Someday looking down from up above, it's not how they fall, it's how you help them up.